Welcome back to the Line Table. This week, the New Mexico Supreme Court revisited a case decided in 2015 that ruled state money should not pay for textbooks for private schools. They were ordered to do so by the U.S. Supreme Court, who last year declined to rule on the case, but asked our Supreme Court to revisit this in light of a case they did rule on which they allowed a private school in Missouri to use public funds to build a playground. The New Mexico Supreme Court is expected to have its decision by the end of the year, Lana. Plaintiffs have argued that it was unconstitutional for the state to pay for textbooks because it put state money towards a private entity not in direct control of the state. That's a fairly, even for us non-lawyers here, that sounds pretty simple and pretty understandable. What's the constitutional issues here? What's going on? How did we get back to this place?
Well, it seems that there's this question about what's the motive behind the bill, or these are sort of anti-religious. And so
as some have accused, right?
Yeah, so they're anti-religious, so maybe we're competing against other rights and responsibilities. And also, there's been arguments made by the non-public schools that they're really harming students who would otherwise really not have access to close schools, and so that it serves a lot of rural students as well. So, they've brought it back, particularly on the grounds of this religious, that we can't discriminate based upon religion.
Dan, it's interesting. We had a little discussion in our green room getting ready for this taping about, there's a lot of tricky things here. If you've got 109 or somewhere around there private schools being affected statewide, they're not all the same. I mean, Hope Christian's not the same as a rural school somewhere and vice versa. Is it better for that rural school to have this kind of a system? We can all agree that would help out if you've got limited budgets. But certain other schools are not that strapped for money, the private schools. Do you see where I'm going here? It just seems sort of odd. A one size fits all. Can one size fit all here, and should we?
Well, I mean, it's an interesting question because that's our philosophy in education. Period. I mean, we treat La Cueva the same way as we treat Rio Grande, and they're completely different, constituencies.
Right.
I think this is a deeper conversation. And it's a conversation that we argued when I was in the legislature about school choice and vouchers. It's whose money is the tax dollars, right? I mean, who really owns the money? Does the government own the money? And if the government owns the money, why is it not the right of the people who pay those taxes to receive something back in value for those taxes?
Gotcha.
I think the discussion about having the school books is an interesting conversation because, early on it was about school vouchers. It was about paying a fee. It was about giving money, building buildings. It's not so much now. It's just about getting the books. But it's, I think you're going to find out that at the end of the day, the courts, I think, at least from the federal level, the federal Supreme Court, I think is buying into the argument that these tax dollars are non-discriminatory, that you're paying into these tax dollars. You don't allow people to opt out of paying their school taxes if they take their kids out of public school. So being able to make sure that they're getting books, making sure they're getting certain things is interesting. Yes, the New Mexico Supreme Court, the New Mexico State Constitution sort of touches on that and says you really can't do that.
Right.
But I was in the legislature from 98 to 2008, and in 2006, we passed a law that changed the New Mexico State Constitution that said my wife, who's half Japanese, could actually own property in New Mexico.
Right.
So just because it's in the state constitution doesn't mean it's always right.
Good example.
We had a very specific deal that said people of Asian descent could not own property in New Mexico.
That's right.
So, I think at the end of the day, the Supreme Court is saying, listen, I think what we're finding out also is that these arguments are no longer cut and dried, right? For the longest time, school vouchers was all about we want money for schools and let us do what we want to do with it. And the anti-voucher people said, no, now it seems to be very specific. Playgrounds, like it was in the one state, school textbooks, which I think makes it very palatable for the average person to say, okay, I'm going to buy into this.
That's an interesting point. Giovanna, when I see the quotes here from the New Mexico Association of Non-Public Schools, saying, look, this is about equity, and we've been doing this for 80 years. It's not as if this is something that we've been, trying to force onto the public unsuspectingly, But we are coming back to something after that suit a few years ago. Do you know what I mean? It's interesting it's hard to try to predict where our Supremes are going to go. But do you have a feel for this? Do you have a sense of where this might end up turning with our Supreme Court here?
I mean, we've been asked to revisit it, right? So we've had a decision, now we're revisiting it. I think there are some interesting issues as have been brought up already, but just to go a little further, historically, these schools have been receiving the textbooks, right? So there's sort of the historical issue of now they don't get them, and they haven't been getting them since 2015, since the ruling. And so is that a hardship for these schools, especially when you look at some of the really small schools, under 100 kids, in like Carlsbad, New Mexico, or like small areas. On the other hand, there are some, interesting other issues, like the issue of public funding. Like, we need to be consistent too.
That's right.
Like, if we're talking about public funding of schools, then let's be consistent across the board.
That's right.
So
That's right. Eric, do you buy the theory out there from some public school folks that feels like this takes away money from public school education, that it just, as a fundamental, we are strapped as it is in most districts across the state, and to have to not get as much as they could be getting because a lot of this is going to private schools. How does that sit with you when you hear that argument?
I buy it, absolutely.
Yeah.
Look. There's the U.S. Constitution, but we have a state constitution that the first thing you learn in the legislature is something called the anti-donation clause. You cannot take public money and give it to without a very elaborate process, or the legislature doing things like the Local Economic Development Act and and diverging from that legislatively and finding a reason to do that with a big public process. So first of all, we are different. Like it or not, we do have a state constitution that's different. Secondly, we have a very fundamentally different way of funding public education in New Mexico, which treats every district, as Dan said, every district and every school in any small poor community the same as a school in Albuquerque. Now, some folks say, well, that's unfair because La Cueva has more resources in terms of social capital and so on than maybe a poor school. But every school there's 89 school districts. So most people, something like 95% of public of students in New Mexico, kids in New Mexico, go to public schools. So we have a very large, robust, half of our budget, almost 45% of our budget in the state goes to it. So it seems to me, if you want to opt out of that system, then as a taxpayer, you should be prepared to cover all the costs of that. There's a great system. You want to make it better, get involved, run, vote, get involved in the school board, but with the system that's that large, that robust, and with our own constitutional issues and the way we fund public education, it seems to me making a choice to opt out of that system is your choice, which means you got to pick up the tab for everything.
Right. Some of these schools, they were saying between textbooks and computer stuff, almost $1 million a year. You know what I mean? We're not talking about, $20,000, $30,000. We're talking about a serious chunk of change here. And can we get to a certain equity point as you hear this discussion? Is it a possibility in your mind's eye, given what everyone's saying here?
Well, I think that, once you open the door, right, once we were to open this door, what are the expenses down the road that the state would be required to pay? So $1 million, which I think in the scheme of our budget probably isn't a huge amount of money, over 109 schools, but it's, where's that going to go? I think that's a real problem.
Right. That's an interesting point there. That's all the time we have for that. Now, just ahead, I sit down with Rainey Aronson Roth. She's executive producer of Frontline to talk about storytelling and the importance of investigative journalism.